The reason we do this, the reason I want to do this, as I say, it's not about being able to describe myself in greater detail. The ego loves that, and it loves tri-types and arrows and wings, and people do that with instincts too. I resonate with this one, and it's not about that. But people use it like the instinct and type and whatever as something to like define myself as in as much detail as possible, and it's sort of gratifying for the ego, and it is. And we can do these things. We can say this is a 5 with a 6 wing, with a strong 3 and a strong 9, with an adaptation instinct and a sexual blind spot, and they work mostly out of developmental level 4. And we can do all these. We can categorize things in all these ways. And that's not wrong. It can be fun. It can be descriptive. It can be very useful if you're, say, a writer and you want to create credible characters. You want to describe your mum to your therapist and she happens to know about this stuff. You can describe your mum in 2 sentences instead of 2 hours. It helps us understand others. If I'm, talking to a friend, or I'm coaching somebody, or I'm having a therapy client or a student or whatever it might be, it helps me relate to people in ways that cater more to their needs than mine, or what I expect to be everybody's needs, because I haven't looked at this stuff. So it helps me in many ways, but it's not inner work. It's not the same as like personal development to know this stuff. Depending on how you get to all this, this chart you paint, how you get to it might give you some self-insight. But if you do a test, or if you go to a coach and say, what type am I? And they say, oh, you're a 3 with a 4 wing and you're socially dominant. What are you going to do with that? It's like, it's not going to give you anything. So the goal, as I see it, is this inner work, the increased self-knowledge and the thing is, people say, oh, I've gained plenty of self-knowledge from knowing, my type and my blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, it's not that kind of knowledge we're talking about. We're talking about experiencing yourself. It's not the same thing as knowing stuff about yourself theoretically, which can be useful, but it's not the same as growth. So this is it's a bit duh in one way, but it's surprising how many people will agree with this and still go on typing themselves in ever finer detail. And so for me, with the instincts, the most interesting thing about them is that what makes them very interesting in this work is that they're so invisible to us before we start, looking at them. And they're also so compelling. They're so close to what we perceive as me, and they're so much like life and death. And it's like, how can you be, interested in home decorating of life, on life and death? Or how can, if I manage to enroll somebody in my project or not, how can that be a life and death thing? But on one level, it is. It's like when the woman who got divorced, or us, all of us in COVID land, how this affects us. We're not, this explains to me in a way how we can be so obsessed and so enchanted by stuff, how things can get so important, when from a head perspective it's like, this isn't really it. You're not going to die because he divorced you. You're not going to lose everybody because you can't see them for a year. But there's very strong identification in here, and that's what makes the instincts very much worth exploring to me. So in one way, the whole purpose of this course was, getting what instincts are and what they're not. And it's not that big a deal which drive is the strongest or which zone. But on the other hand, when we figure ourselves out, we have the help of being able to tell these things apart. So it's a bit of both.
Shit, I got my ears up.